Hey, what's up guys? My name is Emile Hoogenhout. I'm an Ableton certified trainer and 2011 Red Bull Music Academy participant. And today I'm going to be talking about automation and modulation within your session view and arrangement view and various ways of inputting automation and modulation. What are the similarities and what are the differences between automation and modulation? So the similarities are both automation and modulation embed user-defined time-based parameter changes in third-party plugins or Ableton devices, either embedded in audio or MIDI clips. So what does that mean? So for example, if you have a piece of audio that I'm going to show you now, and you have a device parameter set up, you can actually embed a time-based change from one point, so for example bar 1 up to bar 4. You can set up breakpoints, or you can record in your automation, and your device parameter will then change accordingly. So those are the similarities of modulation and automation. What are the differences? Well, that's why I set up these two channels right here. Let me just close this. I've got my clip automation channel over here, and I've got my clip modulation channel over here. These are identical audio channels. I just renamed them automation and modulation for demonstration purposes, and I also set up a piece of music that I've written called People Say as a reference. So nothing is actually inside these audio clips for the time being. So let's start out with our automation. What is automation? Now, automation is also user-defined parameter time-based changes, but the thing is, automation changes or breakpoints are solidified within or embedded in your clip, and it can only be overridden or over-recorded. So let's get started. I'm going to grab a device here to show you as an example. So I'm just going to go to audio effects and grab an EQ8, drop that into my clip automation channel that I've created here, and I'm just going to close this up and activate the 8th point, and I'm going to create a filter sweep from 22 kilohertz all the way down to 30 hertz. So I've selected the frequency now, and I'm going to double click on the clip over here, so the audio clip. And as you can see, my envelope view is open already. You can access your envelope view over here by clicking this E over here, and then you're ready to go. You can see, because I've selected the device parameter already, it pops up over here. And you can actually see that there's this dotted red line, and when I hover over it with my cursor, I'm able to write in breakpoints. Now, a breakpoint is a user-defined point where you actually establish where that device is supposed to be at that point in time. So, for example, I've got a loop running from bar 407 to bar 415. It's an 8-bar loop over there. And I created 2 breakpoints, and you can see the frequencies on there. So that's 22 kilohertz, and I'm going to grab the second breakpoint, grab that, drag it down to 30 hertz. So on bar 407, my automation is written in as 22 kilohertz. It has to be there. It could only be there, and it's going to be at 30 hertz on bar 415, and then it's going to continuously loop with the part. So I'm going to go back here, double click over here, and I want you to take a look at this device dial over here and check it out and give it a listen. Here we go. So as you can see, there's a red dot that's already been created that actually shows you that it's automation. So that is automated already. I can override that by clicking on it and dragging it. Now I've overridden the automation data, and that means that the automation data is still within the clip itself, but it needs to be reactivated. And to reactivate that, this button actually pops up. I want to show you the video, the audio clip as well. The audio clip over here is grayed out, So you can see this is grayed out now. This used to be red. And the dot over here as well is grayed out. So that is showing you that the automation has been overridden. So you can actually override the automation in two different ways. You can either override the automation in override the automation with your controller, or you can do it with your mouse. So by clicking this button over here, I'm going to re-enable the automation. So you can actually do this while this is playing. Here we go. So it's busy playing, and now I'm going and overriding it with my push controller, and I'm just going to re-enable it. So you can see, same thing happens over here. Override it, and re-enable it. Okay, so there we go. That is my clip automation. So I can override it, but there's another way of overriding it as well, and that is re-recording new automation data in over that. So what you need to do with that is you need to actually have your automation arm button on over here, and you need to also record your automation with the automation button over here. Now this is a new feature in Ableton Live 9. A lot of people have actually asked for that from the transition from Ableton Live 8 to 9. This is definitely one of the most fundamental changes in the construction of Ableton. And this is now allowing people to record automation in session view. So while you're busy improvising, whether you're playing a live gig or whether you're in studio trying new things out, you're able to use this little button over here. And if you have a MIDI controller, you can literally, to your heart's content, re-record and overdub new pieces of automation and override it and re-enable it while the clip is busy playing. So that is very, very cool stuff. So let's do that. So our channel is armed over here, so you need to check that your channel is armed. You need to check that your automation arm button is on, and you need to click the automation record button over here. Here we go. So now I'm recording in new automation data, and you'll see it'll just carry on looping and over-recording, well, overdubbing new automation information until I eventually leave the controller to just carry on playing what I've already recorded in. And then when I obviously unarm my automation record, I can now override it just by touching the knob on the specific parameter again, and then obviously re-enabling that by clicking re-enable automation over here. So there we go. That is our automation. So within that, it is now embedded in our clip. So this information is embedded in our clip, and we can now either decide to make changes to it, override it, or whatever. But now we can actually take these ideas. Let's say we've recorded numerous bits of automation. We can actually take that and record it globally. So this is your global record button over here. And once you press that, you are going to record to your arrangement view. So I'm going to press tab, go to the arrangement view, and I'm just going to start recording in from my session view into my arrangement view. So here we go. So as you can see, that's now being recorded. The automation that was embedded in the clip is now being recorded in, but at any time I can actually break that. I can go to my filter frequency on my push controller or any controller and start recording in my own automation. And you can see this button over here has popped up again because I'm now manually making changes. And I can press the return to automation or re-enable automation button and go back to the automation that was embedded in the clip. So I'm going to press stop there, and as you can see, this is now grayed out. This is not 100% colorful, so this actually indicates that the channel is being occupied over here by the session view. So the session view is taking preference because this clip is busy playing. And if I actually press this button over here, or these buttons over here, this will re-enable my my arrangement view. So this is back to arrangement. That is actually what the button is called, back to arrangement view. So that is now going to allow me to listen back to what I've done over here. So you can either do that per track, or you can do that for all the tracks. So I'm just going to click that, and now you can see everything is bright and colorful again, and that means that this is taking preference. If I go back here, you can see this is not armed to be played at this point in time. So now my arrangement is taking preference. So I want to also make sure that you guys understand that this is a different piece of audio. This is a different audio clip now because it's got different information, automation information embedded. And the thing is also with your arrangement view, your automation is actually embedded on your timeline. So that means this is your timeline. This is the first bar, and let's say it's going up to bar 41, for example. This information of your automation is not embedded in your clip anymore. Like for example, if I press tab and I go back to my clip over here, in my envelope section, you can see that my automation has been recorded and it's embedded in the clip. But when I press tab and I go to my arrangement view, you can see that the automation is found here on this drop down menu over here, as opposed to over here. There is no automation information embedded over here because it's embedded in your arrangement view because of your timeline. So that is your automation setup. You can now lock this, for example. Now I can lock these envelopes, and I can now select these two, and I can make changes. I can move this, and as you can see, my envelope stays completely safe from any changes because I've locked the envelope. I can now cut and copy and paste and make changes to my audio if need be. I can try and put in different types of audio clips in there to demo them as well. And you can, as easily as you locked it, you can unlock it and either copy and paste or move your audio accordingly. So that is fantastic. It's really cool. It's very easy to edit and make changes, but that is pretty much your automation in a nutshell. You could also use your drawing tool to make changes. So when you press B, you can actually draw in some other automation over here because B is your pencil tool. So you can carry on drawing in automation. And you could also round out the curves if need be. That's also a new feature in Ableton Live 9. So that being said, I want to move on to clip modulation now. So let's take our same device for example's sake. So I'm going to cut that. So I'm pressing Command X. I'm cutting that, and I'm going to drop that EQ8 in my modulation channel that I've created. So just dropping that in there, and I want to show you how to access your modulation. So I'm selecting the device again, double clicking on the audio clip, and remember, if your envelope does not pop up, you can always access it over here. That E is for your envelope. Remember, this needs to be armed, so you won't be able to access it if this is armed over here. You need to arm your envelope over here. And remember, if you start making changes here off the bat, you are just going to change your automation again. We need to change our modulation now. So if you right click on your audio clip, you can actually go to your show modulation view. You won't be able to access that on the drop down menu over here off the cuff. You need to actually select it over here. So show modulation, and the moment you start making breakpoints, that is when you'd be able to access it. So you can see that pops up over there, and now you'd be able to access your modulation easily without having to constantly right click and find it over there. So that being said, I set up a breakpoint over here, and I want you guys to actually have a look at this. This over here is measured in percentage. So it's not a frequency, even though we are still dealing with our frequency of 22 kilohertz. We are now dealing with a percentage. Let me just go back to my modulation. That's a percentage marking. When I go to my automation over here, when I go to my automation over here, it is going to give you, I'm just going to make a breakpoint over here, that gives you a marking in kilohertz. So that's 22 kilohertz, as opposed to your modulation, which is a percentage. Now, that's an indication of how modulation works. Modulation is a relative value based on your absolute value of a device parameter. So your device parameter has an absolute value, and that is actually where your device is selected. So for example, if it's over here, where this line is over here, that is at 22 kilohertz. That is our absolute value. So now, that being said, let's go back to our modulation and let's make some changes. So let's drag this breakpoint down to minus 50%. So that is relative to our absolute value, which is 22 kilohertz. So that's minus 50% of 22 kilohertz. That's pretty much how modulation works. So you can constantly change your absolute value, and your modulation would work within the range that you define. So you are going to define the range, and the modulation is going to respond accordingly. So let me just make this a bit smaller. So we're starting at minus 50% relative to our absolute value to minus 1.20%. So let's go back to our device, have a look at your frequency over here, and you're going to see that it looks quite different to our automation. So let's press play and have a look. So as you can see, our device dial now has a difference in color. There's actually like a bar within that that shows you a color change of your modulation. So that's indicative of what modulation looks like. So the modulation is now showing you this point over here is your absolute value, and this point over here is your modulation. So when you start it, it's obviously going to be minus 50%. That's pretty much like at 12 o'clock over here. And it'll go up to almost 0%, which is almost 22 kilohertz. So that is pretty much how that works. But also, that being said, a very, very important thing to remember now is we can now redefine the absolute value in real time without overriding our modulation signals. So let's give that a shot. So I'm just going to go to my push controller, and I'm going to make changes accordingly. So when I go down, when I change my parameter value on my frequency, you can actually see that the modulation is actually changing relative to where my absolute value is. Remember, my absolute value is where this little line is, and my modulation relative to that, obviously because this is now stagnant, this is paused, this is going to stay the same. But when I press play, you can actually see that the filter sweep that I wrote in originally on my modulation is still going to be intact. Check this out. So I can now take that down. Let's say we want it deeper. So there we go. And it's going to go up to the absolute value. So that's cool. That's really, really awesome. I mean, it's an amazing thing. You'd be able to actually still on the fly make changes. And that makes it a lot more expressive as opposed to your automation, which you can only record over that, overdub that, or you can override it by, touching the parameter and changing the value while the automation is playing. And so the thing is, you can actually now marry the two. You can take what you know of clip automation, and you can take what you know of clip modulation, and now use them both on the same parameter values. So, for example, we're dealing with our filter over here, and we've got our modulation in here, but let's set up some automation to change the absolute value and see how the modulation works within the absolute value that we write in for our automation. So let's double click on there, and we've got the automation set up over here. We can click to check. As you can see, it says show modulation. We've already done the modulation. So let's do the automation. So let's write that in. I'm going to create 2 breakpoints. And let's see. I want to show you guys something as well that is very, very cool. If you're dealing with smaller loops, having the same automation length or modulation length as your clip can get quite dull after a while, like listening to the same point in the same piece of music at the same bar, react the same way. It gets very, very boring after a while. So Ableton actually thought of that, and it's really, really amazing. When you unlink your loop section over here for your envelope, now you can redefine the loop length of your envelope, whether it's modulation or automation. So check this out. I'm going to unlink this, and you can see the audio disappears, and now you're able to actually create a different loop length, and your actual audio loop would still stay intact. So it's still an 8-bar loop. Here we go. It's by your sample group. It's an 8-bar loop over here, but your envelope now is going to be a 5-bar loop. So let me take this. I'm going to drag this down, and we're going to start at 30 hertz. And we're going to automate that up to 22 kilohertz over here in the span of 5 bars. Now let's go to our modulation setup, and we could do exactly the same thing. So unlink that, the audio disappears, the audio reference disappears, and let's say we want this to be a 8-bar loop. So we're just going to drag this breakpoint over here to almost 0, and we're going to create another breakpoint over here. Just drag that there, and now that's set up. So now these are going to become polyrhythmic because we've got an 8-bar loop and we've got a 5-bar loop. So it's going to take a certain amount of measures for it to eventually resolve, which actually in turn makes the audio loop that originally is just 8 bars a lot more interesting. There's going to be a lot more movement within that, which creates a lot more interest. So just have a look at this. So now we've got automation and modulation happening on our frequency of our EQ8. Check this out. See, it goes past it, restarts, so it's constantly shifting and changing. Obviously depending on what it is that you want to do, you can actually redefine the way that it responds. And that also being said, you can now override the automation if need be. So while this is playing, I can go to my push controller and redefine the absolute value manually. This guy pops up again, and I can click that and go back to re-enable my automation. So with that, let's record this back into our global recording, back to our arrangement view. So we've got all this embedded in this clip over here, and we've got it armed, and I'm going to record this into our arrangement view just by pressing record. Check this out. So it's busy recording the information in. And like I said, I can override it at any time, and that's going to record as well. So I'm overriding the signal manually. You can see all the different breakpoints there. Overriding the signal, and I can go back to my original automation. And let's go back. Let's click this button to enable our arrangement. So this is going to make the arrangement take preference now to our session view. So now with that set up, we've got all our information over here. Like I said, we could lock this, we can make some changes. But the reason why I recorded this back in is I want to show you that the automation is in the timeline, but you will not find your modulation in the timeline. The modulation will still be available only in your clip. So your modulation over here, and this is also indicative of modulation written in. You can see that this section is colored. So this section is colored in, and your automation is not colored in. Your automation is just a line. Okay, so that is a very, very important thing. So remember, your automation is in the timeline in your arrangement view, and your modulation is still embedded in your clip. So now we can actually consolidate this, change this, swap this around, put other audio by it, whatever we wanted to do. You know, we can actually make all these changes accordingly. But that is fundamentally what the difference between automation and modulation is. So I'm going to just delete that, and I want to take this one step further. So we've got all this information in here, but let's say we wanted to actually set up various pieces of various different types of modulation and automation on the same piece of audio. So it would be kind of a workaround and quite a mission to actually copy and paste the same piece of audio and just put in parameter changes within that. And Ableton actually thought about that as well. And this is a very, very interesting technique. It's called using dummy clips. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a dummy clip channel, and that is an extra channel where you can actually drop your devices, and you're still able to write in your automation and modulation data within that channel that is actually empty, that you're going to use as a monitoring device for other channels of audio that you're routing toward it. So let's just get that started. Let me give you an example. So I'm going to press Command T to create a new audio channel, and I'm going to also bring up my channel routing by pressing Command Alt I. Here we go, Command Alt I, and I want to set my monitor to in, and I want to rename this audio to dummy clips. Okay, now that's done. I want to route this clip modulation audio channel to my dummy clips channel over here. So when you go to your audio over here, audio 2, we are going to set this up to go to dummy clips. So now that is going to send our audio straight from here to our dummy clips channel, and that is let's just give that a shot. Let's test it. So now you can see the audio is being controlled here. I can take that down and take it back up. So the final audio, as you can see, the audio is also filtering through here, so you can control the volume over here. But this would be like the master channel, well, the channel just before the master over here. Okay, so now I'm going to move this device. So I'm also going to cut this. So Command X is going to cut my EQ8. And I'm going to drag that, or I'm going to just drop that into my dummy clips channel over here. So Command V, and I'm going to paste my EQ8 in there. And then we can actually make our changes accordingly. So let's select the device. But what we need to do is we need to input our information, our modulation and automation information. Now that's not a problem. All you need to do is just take any audio clip. It could be anything. I'm going to just drag this in. I'm going to make a duplicate, so I'm going to hold Alt, click on it, and drag it. And as you can see, when you look at your audio clip now, because the monitoring is set to in, the audio clip is now see-through, it's discolored. And that is an indication that you are not going to be hearing the audio when I press play. So the audio is technically playing, but the monitoring is set to route from another channel to monitor what we're sending into it. So now that allows us to actually still write our device parameter changes, but not hear the audio that we've got. And that is like the coolest thing ever, because now you can have all your stuff set up, you can write in all your parameter changes, and you can test drive it with different types of different audio clips, different MIDI clips, whatever you want to route into your dummy clips channel. So that's a very, very cool thing. So let's just rename this. I'm just going to press Command R, and I'm just going to call this dummy. And let's start making some changes. So let's select our envelope. You can see this is selected now. Our sample is selected. Select the envelope, and the little red dotted line would pop up. And now let's unlink this, and let's make some interesting changes. So let's write in some breakpoints. Oh, wait, I just need to click on a different section so I can make some changes. There we go. So that's a 4-bar one. Let's right click and say show modulation. Let's unlink that, and let's say we want this to be a 3-bar set up, and we want that to go to minus 50% from 0. And let's make a duplicate. So let's duplicate that. And that's how easy it is. You can actually just go in and just make changes. I'm just going to press B so I can use my pencil tool to make further changes. Change the loop length, right click on it, go to show automation, just zoom in there, and change more loop lengths. We can employ some other parts as well. So for example, we can go to our resonance over here, and we can add in some resonance that we write in as well to make some crazy changes just so that we can see them. And now we can duplicate that, and we can carry on making changes and doing interesting things. And the great thing is this is all non-destructive. All this is now separate to our audio clips. So for you guys that might be a little bit weary in terms of thinking that the audio is going to get damaged or anything is going to be difficult to get back to where it was, now your audio is safe and you're able to actually experiment with various devices. So I'm just using the EQ8 as an example, but you guys could use anything. You could use a beat repeat, you could use anything. It's that simple. It really is that simple. So we've got three dummy clips that we've set up now. I'm just going to press play on the dummy clip so you guys can actually see that the parameter changes are now set up with our automation and modulation. Check this out. So there we go. All these different parameter changes now set up, and we can now route any type of audio into this clip over here or into this channel, and all these device parameters are now going to affect the audio that we route through it. And it's that simple. It's really, really that simple. Let me just close the ins and outs section. So Command Alt I so you can see a bit better. And let's press play, and let's hear the different changes. Okay, let's press play on the next one. Next one. So there we go. There are three different ideas that I just came up with on the fly very, very quickly. and you can refine them. You can really make them very, very interesting and expressive, and you can always then decide to override the absolute value by using your controller, or manually actually just clicking on it and dragging on your device parameter. And remember, your modulation will still stay intact. So there we have it. So the thing is, when we look at our clips over here, you can actually sit with your controller, like for example your APC or your push controller or your launch pad, and launch these clips. Let's say we had many different versions of dummy clips and whatever. You can actually sit there and play them in manually or launch them manually. But there's another thing called follow actions that actually makes it so much easier, and also adds an element of randomness in your composition, which is also very, very exciting. So when I actually double click on one of my dummy clips over here, or any audio clips, you can actually find your launch section over here by pressing this L button. Now this launch section actually gives you all different types of information on how your clips will respond when you launch them. So for example, you've got a different type of launch mode. So you've got trigger, you've got gate, you've got toggle, you've got repeat, you've got your legato mode that is relative to where the clip starts. So for example, when you start a clip, it's going to play through a specific timeline, and when you cross over to a different clip that's in legato mode, it won't restart the clip from the beginning. It'll respond relative to where that clip would be in the timeline. So that is a very, very useful function as well. You've got your quantization settings, obviously your velocity settings, but I'm interested in the follow action settings over here. So we haven't set up any follow actions yet, but as you can see, you've got your bars and your beats and everything set up here, and then your follow actions are on these two drop downs over here. So you've got stop, play again, previous, next, first, last, any, or other. So that means that in 2 bars, you can actually say, okay, in 2 bars, I want it to play the next clip. And this is your probability meter. So this is 1/0. So that means there's 100% chance that this is going to happen. You can also set this up to say, well, I want that to play the last clip, and I want to change this to 1 as well. So now that means that there's a 50-50 chance that in 2 bars, this is either going to play the next clip, or it's going to play the last clip. So that being said, let's set up the other 2. So I've selected both by using Shift, and you can actually see when you've got your stripe selected on your clips. When you see these little stripes, these candy striped vibes, you can actually see that more clips have been selected simultaneously. So now we can actually say, okay, cool, let's have them play any clip after 2 bars. And we can now press play, and now we can actually see how things change. But let's make more duplicates. I know that these are all the same, but I just want to give you an idea. If I have more clips, then it's actually you're going to see how it randomizes more. And we can actually also make these smaller. Let's say that after 1 bar, they'll change. So here we go. Check this out. So it's just constantly changing. So that is pretty much as simple as that. Now there's an element of randomness within your composition, and that is a very, very interesting thing, because now you can surprise yourself completely and see how this responds, and how amazing, like your ideas, you kind of put in the ideas, and now you can actually see like all the different little variations, and you can pick up what you like. So for example, you can now record this in as well. So I can arm this, and I can go to my global record, press play, and record. And now all these clips, you can see the dummy clips are being recorded as well. So now we can press this, and now you can see all your dummy clip information is now in here. And it's as simple as that. And now you can make further editing choices. You can decide to make put in more breakpoints, or put in your pencil tool, make other changes, whatever it is that you want to do. It's that simple. It is really, really, really powerful stuff. So now with your dummy clips and everything sorted out, I wanted to show you guys an example that I've put together to show you how unbelievably intricate and amazingly powerful this can actually become. So I'm going to delete this dummy clips channel, and I'm going to quickly unfold this group channel over here. So here we go. So I've got my Rhodes channel over here. I've got a dummy gate channel that opens and closes the channel, so it's muting it. I've got follow actions over here to play in a sequence, so it's going to play from the first clip to the last clip and then back to the first clip. So that's almost like a chord progression. Over here I've got an effects rack that I've built with a chain selector, so that's going to go through different effects units. So like when I go down here, you can also see all the different effects that it's going to go through. And then I've got my bass channel over here. This is actually just also just follow actions in a sequence, so playing from the first to the last clip. I also wanted to say that with your follow actions, your clips need to touch each other. They need to be next to each other to respond within a unit. So for example, this clip over here is separate to the group, so this will not be affected by your follow actions. If I move this up and for example one of these say play any or other clips, then this might be selected as well. But I did this on purpose so that I can actually launch this separately and have this loop by itself when I need to, and then I can go back into my sequence if I need be, just by pressing any of these play buttons, and then the sequence will begin again. Then I've got my drum breaks over here. These are all randomized, so they're all going to play random different clips. So they're not playing in any sequence. They're basically just drum breaks that I set up, and just to add in like sporadic interesting flavor. Then I've got my drum breaks out. That is opening and closing the channels. Then another effects rack, a bunch of effects. This is not in a rack form because I wanted to switch on and off all these effects units while they were busy playing. So I've got that set up as well. And then I've got my glitches also automated to play randomly. And then my vocal samples as well to play randomly as well. And then these channels over here are just audio channels for my drum programming. So without further ado, here we go. This should give you an indication of what you can do with the Ableton Live 9 follow actions and using automation and modulation. So let's give it a shot, and I hope you guys like it. Check it out. So thank you very much, guys. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and if you guys have any questions, I'm more than willing to answer your questions. You can send me emails to bear.things@gmail.com, and you could also hit me up on the Facebook group. So that's Ableton Certified Trainer South Africa. And yeah, please share your ideas. If you guys have any projects or anything that you want to share, or any devices that you've created, please feel free. My name is Emile Hoogenhout, aka Bear. Thank you very much for your time, and I'm going to play this one out. Thanks, guys.